Eagles fans, I have been sitting here thinking about our team, and honestly, the anxiety of training camp is already starting to set in. Something is developing regarding the roster that could shake up everything we thought we knew about this squad before the season even begins. It is tough because we are looking at guys we have rooted for facing some brutal realities while fighting for their jobs. The more details emerge, the harder it is to ignore the looming cuts. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop your name and city in the comments. Let us dive in. Fly, Eagles, fly. The Philadelphia Eagles face a brutal summer as training camp officially begins, meaning the time has come to address the harsh reality of roster cuts that will inevitably break some hearts. As Eagles fans, we know this intense 5-week battle is where careers are made or lost. We are currently tracking 4 bubble players who are fighting for their professional lives: Elijah Moore, Tanner McKee, Grant Calcaterra, and Jacorian Bennett. These players are all facing steep climbs to secure their spots for Week 1. Elijah Moore is struggling to find a role in a crowded receiver room, while Tanner McKee must prove he is more valuable than veteran Andy Dalton. Meanwhile, Grant Calcaterra is squeezed out by our new tight end depth, and Jacorian Bennett seems to have lost his standing with Vic Fangio. And honestly, this news hit the fan base hard because we have grown attached to guys like McKee and Calcaterra during their development cycles. Music? Let's be real. Seeing these names on the chopping block makes us wonder about the long-term strategy of this front office. Here is where it gets interesting because these players must perform flawlessly in camp to force the coaches to change their plans. That matters because if they fail to impress, they will be gone before the season opener even arrives. Now here's the thing. The competition level is at an all-time high across the league, especially with guys like Ben Johnson leading the Bears and Mike Vrabel coaching the Patriots, making our roster decisions even more critical for success. We expect excellence, but it is never easy to say goodbye to players we have cheered for over the years. Music. Regardless of the outcome, we will be watching every single snap this summer as we prepare to cheer our team on toward another championship run. Fly, Eagles, fly. The roster crunch we are facing feels like a direct result of aggressive offseason retooling and a shift in positional philosophy. After heavy investment in the secondary and a complete overhaul of the tight end room, the front office is clearly prioritizing specific role players over pure depth. For guys like Jacorian Bennett, the writing has been on the wall since his struggles to adapt to Vic Fangio's complex scheme last season. He is entering the final year of his rookie contract with 0 special teams utility, which is a massive liability when the team needs cheap, versatile depth. Music? That matters because our history shows that Howie Roseman has no problem cutting bait on underperforming high draft picks if they do not provide immediate value on coverage units. Here is where it gets interesting regarding Grant Calcaterra, who finds himself fighting against the addition of developmental assets like Eli Stowers. The coaching staff is clearly looking for a specific blocking profile that Calcaterra simply does not possess, and his 1-year deal offers the team an easy out to save precious cap space. Let's be real, the team is likely viewing these bubble players as expensive placeholders while they look for younger, cheaper alternatives who fit the system better. Elijah Moore is in a similarly precarious position because his resume as a vertical threat is overshadowed by his inability to contribute on special teams or as a dedicated blocker. And honestly, we have seen this script play out before with players who have talent but lack the grit required to play in Philly. Now here's the thing, the coaches are likely already running simulations to see which of these guys can swallow their pride to secure a roster spot before the final cuts. Music. If they cannot prove their worth in the next 5 weeks, their time here is up. Fly, Eagles, fly. As Eagles fans, we have to recognize that these roster battles define our championship window. That matters because the difference between a Super Bowl run and an early exit often comes down to the bottom 10 spots on the depth chart. Elijah Moore, Tanner McKee, Grant Calcaterra, and Jacorian Bennett are all fighting for their professional lives, and their presence or departure drastically shifts our salary cap flexibility for potential mid-season acquisitions. If we move on from these bubble players, we clear space to target veterans when injuries inevitably strike, which is critical for maintaining depth behind our starters. And honestly, this internal competition ensures that only the hungriest players suit up for the green and white. Music? Here is where it gets interesting because our special teams production hinges on these specific roster choices. If we keep pass catchers who cannot block or contribute on coverage units, we will get exposed against disciplined teams like the Washington Commanders with David Blau running their offense or the New Orleans Saints under Kellen Moore. Let's be real, a failure to curate the correct hybrid talent puts us at a disadvantage against the Cowboys and Giants in divisional play. Now here's the thing. Our playoff hopes depend on having versatile assets who can adapt when we face complex defensive schemes from coaches like Mike Vrabel in New England. If we lack depth at cornerback or tight end, our ability to rotate players during those grueling late-season stretches disappears. We need the right mix of grit and skill to secure home field advantage and ensure we are built for January football. Music. If we get these final roster decisions wrong, we risk stalling our momentum during the most important games of the year, so we must pray the front office picks the guys who truly embody our culture and toughness. Fly, Eagles, fly. On one side, the front office is clearly prioritizing versatility and special teams value over raw talent, a smart move to ensure depth remains sturdy throughout a grueling 17-game season. By moving on from fringe players like Elijah Moore and Grant Calcaterra, we clear cap space and roster spots for hungry rookies who can contribute on units coached by the staff. But on the other side, the risk of cutting high-upside players is that we might lose a hidden gem who simply needed more reps to flourish in Vic Fangio's complex defensive scheme. If Tanner McKee or Jacorian Bennett find their rhythm elsewhere, we could be left regretting our impatience while our competitors celebrate our mistakes. Here is where it gets interesting because analysts around the league, including those covering the Titans under Robert Saleh and the Vikings under Nolan Teasley, are whispering that our secondary depth is being tested prematurely. Music media pundits wonder if we are stripping the roster of potential depth pieces too aggressively for the sake of immediate reliability. That matters because winning the NFC East requires both top-tier starters and reliable backups who can step up when the inevitable injury bug strikes this team. Let's be real about the reality of the modern NFL, where roster turnover is inevitable and often necessary to keep the locker room hungry. Personally, I think we are holding on to nostalgia with some of these bubble guys, and the sooner we commit to the youth movement, the better off we will be come January. Music. If we trim the fat now, we avoid the dreaded mid-season stagnation that often plagues teams clinging to underperforming veterans. We need to trust the process because this team is built to compete for a championship right now. Fly, Eagles. Fly. It is time to make these tough calls and secure our path to glory. These difficult roster decisions show that our front office is prioritizing long-term flexibility and specialized roles over past potential. This signifies a shift toward a team identity built on versatility, which is crucial as we navigate a league where the coaching landscape is shifting rapidly with guys like Ben Johnson and Kellen Moore taking over new squads. That matters because the Eagles are aiming to sustain a championship window rather than just patching holes with veterans who may no longer fit the scheme. As Eagles fans, we should feel optimistic but realistic about this transition. We have a front office that is not afraid to cut ties with underperforming former draft picks to make room for players who actually execute the coaching staff's vision. Music letting go of guys like Elijah Moore or Jacorian Bennett proves that no one is safe, which drives the competition that ultimately makes this team better. Here is where it gets interesting, as this high level of internal pressure creates a culture of accountability that serves us well in the toughest months of the season. Let's be real, the depth chart is constantly evolving, and watching these guys fight for their jobs during camp is what separates contenders from the rest of the pack. And honestly, it is tough to say goodbye to players we once rooted for, but it is necessary for progress. Now here's the thing. Do you think keeping a veteran backup like Andy Dalton over a developing prospect like Tanner McKee is the right move for our Super Bowl aspirations this year? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. Music. If you enjoyed the video, do not forget to like it and subscribe to the channel. Fly, Eagles, fly. I'll see you in the next one.